First Watch now.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler. First Watch on 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your sheriff's office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office, and Sheriff Mark Daniels. Good morning.
Good morning, Cochise County.
Hello, everyone.
Well, let's start off with high school football because it's just around the corner.
It is. Actually, next Friday, the smaller schools kick off their season. That's the San Pedro Valley with Bisbee, Tombstone, Benson. Actually, Benson went to 3A, so let me correct that. Benson actually went up. They petitioned to come back down. But the smaller schools actually kick off next Friday. We're not going to call games next Friday, but the following week, the larger schools, the 4A, 5A, 6As, Buenos, a 5A school, will kick off their regular season. So it'll be a home game for the Colts. They'll be playing Betty Fairfax High School out of Phoenix. I don't think we've ever called a game with them or even seen them in our county, but they're coming. They're coming down to Buenos Aires. You got nothing going on the 25th. You want to come out and support your Colts. Pre-game will be at 6:30. Game kicks off at 7. And Jeff Davenport won't be able to call the game with me that night, so we have a guest in the studio with us, the Kevin Caroline, Steve Kurtz studio. And that'll be J.D. Wattweiler, our president of Cochise College. We found out that he did a little calling on the microphone, and we all know J.D. can talk. So he'll be on the microphone with us, and we're looking forward to have a good night.
And remember, those air live on KWCD. You can download their app. You can also listen on the radio on 92.3, which is right here. Sheriff Daniels will be calling those games every Friday. And it's pregame at 6:30 and kickoff at 7 o'clock. And I know you're excited for the season.
We enjoy it. It gives an opportunity for us to showcase our high school student athletes that work so hard. I mean, and gives the school a little opportunity, get a little media coverage. So it's just, we enjoy it. And plus, let's never forget the tradition and legacy that Kevin Caroline and Steve Kurtz did for 40 years, 4 decades of being in front of that microphone, showcasing student athletes. I remember when I was a young dad and watching my kids go through high school, and Steve and Kevin. A lot of times I had to work, so I was in the parking lot or working the road and listening to the football game through Kevin and Steve. So, again, we're carrying that legacy forward.
And you've been busy this whole week, as usual, and you were tied up with congressional hearing. That was a big deal at Cochise College, hosted by Cochise College. And there were people there. There were a lot of good questions, a lot of good information that was relayed.
Yeah, and we had a congressional hearing. They had called me several weeks ago and said, "Hey, can you host a congressional hearing?" Well, I called my friend JD over at the college and said, "JD, can you host this?" And which is a good venue for that. I truly believe this is a United States congressional hearing at a college campus. I mean, it's just a match. And JD, open arms, and especially, let me just say this, I got to give a shout out to Krista Wheeler and Amber and all his staff over there that just accommodate the heck out of community events, not just ours that we do and the partnerships we have with JD and his team, but all his team just steps up. I mean, what an asset to have in Cochise County is that college and him and his leadership. So thank you to his team over there. But great hearing, though. I'll just say to have a congressional hearing here that was open to the public, had a nice, well-attended event there at the college, and we shared our community, our reality with congressional hearings. The high hopes is they'll take it back and something will change. It's like the 7th time I think I've testified in front of Congress, first one remotely like this, but we hope it's got to change. It truly has got to change for all the right reasons, and because we put a lot of effort in there keeping the reality awareness out there, because if we don't, nobody's even going to know about it.
And that's true. And we get a lot of feedback from every event that happens like that, on both sides of it. So one of the things that you are always putting out there is it's nonpartisan. It's not political. It's just facts that you need to get shared.
And this is not political. I mean, you go back and look at the statistics over the last couple of years from Department of Homeland Security, CBP statistics, and they don't have to be political. You don't have to put a political slant on it. It's real, and the stats are staggering. The historical numbers under a public safety umbrella or a national security umbrella, like the media, your news just did, Grady. They had a gentleman that came, I should say it so nicely, but a person come across the border that was a deportee. That's an aggravated deportee, and he's wanted in our country for molestation of a child. I mean, that serious offender will come in our country. Good job to CBP for catching him, but what are we not catching? The gotaways that we see so many of them. So that's vulnerability to every American community, and that's why I speak on this. And then you look at the humanitarian. We had a guy I think it was the same night we had the congressional hearing. Our search and rescue, let me give them a shout out. They've been working their butts off this week, nonstop. But they had a migrant that fell and broke both his legs. So by the time they got there, Border Patrol had him already rescued up. But again, this is a lot of time and effort, and it's inhumane what's going on. That's not even including all the recoveries that we see. I mean, over 1,000 recoveries over the last year and a half, 2 years, and that's on the southwest border. That's a lot of inhumane deaths. So again, I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we don't address this. And I'll continue to say this: silence, avoidance, and abandonment will never solve the problem, and that's what's going on.
And we're going to also talk with Juan Ciscomani coming up.
Yes, I have a meeting this morning. His advisory council meetings today up in Tucson, up at the U of A Technology in Vail. So I'm going up there after this to do the roundtable with them and just talk about. And this is a diverse group of leaders throughout the 5 counties he serves, and just we talk about different issues. What are the challenges? And this will be a topic of discussion. I mean, no matter where you sit, we have to secure our border because that's community and quality of life, and goes hand in hand.
And just follows along the same lines of the pursuit that happened in the crash earlier this week.
It does. And I was coming back from Benson, and when the pursuit kicked up under my deputies, a trooper started the pursuit, and I was listening to it 100 miles an hour. These are deadly speeds. Coming into Sierra Vista, almost caused 2 crashes prior to crashing. We disengaged for community risk, and then we started setting up interdiction on the other side of the town to take this vehicle down safely. Well, the vehicle tried to turn onto St. Andrews, went airborne, hit the curb, went airborne, and into a residential block wall, and through the block wall. It's a picture, as you can see on Facebook. And then a couple of migrants were injured. A couple of them ran on us. I think 3 ran, 2 stayed there because of injuries. And then the 2 United States citizens, the driver and passenger, took off because they don't care. They don't care. They ran through the residential yard. We set up a perimeter, and for several hours we were going door to door, locked the neighborhood down. We truly locked the neighborhood down for their safety, trying to find these 2 individuals. And several hours later, we caught both of them. So, and now their lives are changed. But I can promise you, and they were out of Las Vegas, Nevada, this was not their first smuggling event. I can promise you that. They've been down here somewhere on the border, probably Cochise County, but they think, listen, this is easy money. I didn't get caught. I'm coming back. Well, now you see the difference here. We have people that have been, I don't want to say traumatized, maybe too big of a word, but too strong of a word, but think about when you're locked in your home, especially I was talking to one neighbor, she was telling me that her mom is assisted living at home, they got a caretaker, and they were frightened. And that's why I say these words, but nobody deserves to go through this. But if we do nothing, they will exploit and open up this county that will never see the difference. I mean, get it back to where it needs to go. So we're going to continue to do what we have to do, using smart tactics to bring these interdictions and pursuits to a safe conclusion.
The Cochise County Jail is always looking for employees. We've got some changes coming in Sierra Vista soon, and we actually just hired a couple of DOs.
Hired 3 more detention officers a week, so that's good. Keep on applying, folks. I hope you're hearing us. I mean, if you're looking for a job, starts at $45,000 a year, great benefits, and great opportunity advancement, and that's the most important. So I think it's $45,000 to $62,000 if you do have experience. We recognize your experience. That's for in the jail. But yes, so we're getting back up there. That's a tough field to fill. We have a high turnover there. And it's not because of the climate, the culture, or the people that work there. It's just that job, it's got to fit you. That's a tough job, I'll just say. But it's a rewarding job because you work within a great team environment. They do amazing work down there, and I applaud them all for what they do.
And you can start at 18 years old because you can't become a deputy until you're 21. As a matter of fact, on our Facebook page, we have a couple videos now where detention officers become deputies. It kind of gives their stories. But you can start at 18 years old in the jail and kick off your law enforcement career.
You can, or make a career within detention. A lot of them do that, and it's a great job. It's all based on what your likes are. I mean, some like working in a controlled facility like a jail, and some like working the road. But either way, there's advancements going in both directions.
And you can find out more about applying at cochise.az.gov.
And you also have 2 support positions that were filled. So we've had a pretty busy week with getting people sworn in and on the job. So we have a new sex offender analyst, which we've desperately needed because we've been down to 1 for almost a year. And Manny's been really working hard to keep everybody straight and all of our processes flowing. So it's going to be nice to have Dawn as his assistant, or both of them working together. And then we also have a new secretary for our finance because of all of the stuff that's going on there.
Yeah, I got to welcome, got to meet him there today and spend some time with them. And Carol, let's talk real quick about the sex offender. How many? It's a mandate for the sheriff's office to have registration and oversight on sex offenders in Cochise County based on the court's guidelines and governances there. How many do we have in Cochise County right now?
So our last count was 304, and that's the highest that we've had so far. Wow. we hovered around 215, 216 for a while. It ebbs and flows, but 304 is a lot of people to manage in that particular unit. But manage we must. Everybody has to register with the sheriff's office. They have to get classification. They have to make yearly appearances now because of a new law that was enacted that they actually have to physically come in. Got a call yesterday, and one of our offenders, she said that she didn't have a vehicle, and she does not live in this immediate area. She lives in the remote part of Cochise County. So those are hurdles that we have to overcome, and we don't try to make it more difficult for anybody, but we just need to make sure that you stay within the confines of the law, because if you don't, it's class 4 felony. And so a lot of things go into that. You have to have your driver's license. We have to do home checks. We have to do neighborhood notifications on people who are not pre-Megan. So even though we have 304, that's not saying we're notifying on 304 people, because a majority of our registrants are before Megan, which means they still have to register and still have to abide by all of the laws and rules and regulation, but it's not public information as long as you stay on the straight and narrow. Everybody after that, then we do the classifications and make the neighborhood notifications.
And that's one of the first things 11 years ago when I was elected sheriff was when I sat down with all the different units was those that go out of compliance, like you're talking about, we issue arrest warrants for you and we go after you. So we want to make sure our sex offenders, are following the rules of the court, and if they don't, then we hold them accountable. And that's something that's very important to me, because if a sex offender goes out of compliance, we want to know where they're at. If not, we're going after them. So, Carol, thanks to you and your team for doing that. It's a lot of work for 2 people.
And the Cochise County Sheriff's Office is a wonderful place to work. And last week you had meetings with all of your employees, and they actually got to turn in a survey for the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, I've done this every 3 years with some absence during COVID because we didn't meet. But it's a blind survey, and it actually is 5 simple questions. And the first question is, do you like working at the Cochise County Sheriff's Office? And you can put strongly agreed, agree, or disagree. And so 99.5% of the people it's a blind survey, over 200 people took the survey and turned it in, put strongly agreed, which was lead and charge, or agreed. Secondary to that, only 0.5% put disagree. And that's kind of the way the survey went. It was very positive. The only place that I took some challenge hits, and I say we, I'm talking about my leadership and I, was resources. And talking to them, they tell you we just don't have enough resources. And I'm talking about staffing. That's where I get bit every 3 years on that one. And I can't argue it. I can't. So we have to be very smart about and analytical how we put our people out there, how we staff our units, how we staff our patrol deputies for response, for reactive and proactive calls. So again, those are the challenges. But all the survey was outstanding. I let some of their leaders in the community look at it and say, what's your feedback? And they said, hey, that's really good. And so thank you to all my men and women that serve the mission of the Sheriff's Office. Thank you for being here, and truly, and thank you for the support you gave me as your sheriff. It means a lot.
And that includes the Sheriff's Assist team. They were at the meetings, and they're having their own award ceremony coming up next week, again, hosted by Cochise College. So I think that's going to be a really important way to recognize them. Not that they haven't done this every single year, but they're really stepping up the game this year. They have a whole new protocol for awards that are being received, and I think it's going to be really a good way to show appreciation.
Well, John Black, Steve Ziegler, now Alan Wheeler, I mean, they have really stepped up to lead that volunteer corps. And I got all the trust and confidence in all of them to go out there and do that, and they've done it. John's been with me, and Steve's been with me since the day I got elected. I've known John way before that, and Steve. So we've grown them. They do more. Actually, when I took over, they run 3,000 to 4,000 volunteer hours as a team a year annually. Now they're up over 10,000 to 13,000 hours depending on the year. So we kind of forced the envelope a little bit with them, but they've stepped up. They do wonderful things as a team. So thank you to SAP.
There's also a retirement you wanted to talk about.
Yes, Wyatt Berry. Wyatt came out of the military, stationed here. I knew him when he was in the military as a military policeman. Got out and just retired this week with 20.
Today is his last day.
Today's his last day. We had a ceremony 2 days ago, a little luncheon for him, and thanked him and shared some stories and provided some retirement gestures to him and gifts. And bottom line is this: today's his last day. He's going to stay on reserve, but I just want to say, Wyatt, thank you. I spoke to his wife yesterday. They couldn't make the luncheon, and I just good luck, my friend, and we thank you for your service to this office, this community, and we wish you well in your new endeavors.
And so there was a situation where you were at a dinner on Sunday, Saturday, for the National Wild Turkey Federation, and that was at the Knights of Columbus here in Sierra Vista. So that was an interesting event. So tell us a little bit about what the event was and what it turned into.
Well, it's kind of like Ducks Unlimited. It's really, and that's such a popular program. Very, very similar. I had not been to this one. So that was at the Knights of Columbus. And when I got there that night, talked to the Knights folks, I knew a lot of the people there, and excuse me, and the mayor and I and my wife, we all sat there, and Brad Deaver, Assistant Fire Chief from Sierra Vista Fire, we were out at this table, and about 20 minutes to go. The event was well attended. In fact, they sold out, I believe. And about 20 minutes before it was over, I heard, "Where's the sheriff? Where's the sheriff?" And I turned around. I thought I heard the first time. I turned around because it was very loud in the nights. Turned around. This guy was asking where I was at. I said, "Right here. What's up?" There's an altercation, and I can't remember if he said gun or guns in the parking lot. So I'm like, that's nice. So I got up, went out there, and I could hear the altercation as I'm coming out of the Knights. Went around the back side, the dark side of the parking lot, west side, and sure enough, there was an altercation. And so trying to take command of the situation, I looked over, and an individual had a gun. I actually told him, put the gun down. He said no, which anytime somebody's got a gun, and I identify as a sheriff, I had my badge on my side and my off-duty weapon. I told him again, put the gun down, and said it very firmly. And so finally he relieved his gun back to me after the second request and some discussion. But it was really a tense situation. Let me just say it was emotionally driven. We'll get into all the details, but you never know. You never know. But I will say this to you as a safety message. If alcohol is involved, weapons need to be put away. Let me just say that. And that's when it gets scary. And I knew a lot of the people when I came out in the parking lot. I recognized quite a few of them, which is to my benefit. Most of them are allies in that aspect or friends. But you never know how those situations, they come on quick, and you hope you can de-escalate them quick, because the longer they go, challenge is there. Service PD, sheriff's deputies got there. An individual went to jail for aggravated assault. Sad to see that, but we live our actions. People forget that. We live our actions. So if you pull a gun at somebody, you better be able to articulate why. If not, it's illegal and you will go to jail. So I'm just glad, let me just say as I close that story out, I'm glad nobody was hurt.
And this week's Stop of the Week actually happened this morning?
This morning coming here. That's not a shocker, Grady. That's not a shock. But I was coming to get my morning soda, gas my car up, because I'm heading to Tucson after this. And school bus coming up the residential road. Here comes the car, 57 miles an hour. Spun on the car, stopped it. Besides the speed issue that we talked about and I addressed, also this is what I wanted to make sure, and I get a lot of this too. So Arizona plated car, registered to the driver. She's a registered owner, but she has a Wisconsin driver's license. And I asked her, I said, are you a resident here? And she said yes. And she said she moved here in December, got a job in January. So she's been here, what's that, 10 months? 8 months. And the law states, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this one, I ended up writing her a citation this morning. The law states that if you once you get a job, you're an automatic resident. There's no grace period. that, well, I'll get it in 6 months, I'll be fine. No, and she got her Arizona driver's license, not driver's license, but vehicle registration. Get your driver's license too. And a lot of people say, well, I got two more years left on my out-of-state license. It doesn't work that way. You got to become a resident. Once you become a resident, then, especially when you get a job, then you got to get a driver's license. So I share that with everybody. If you're driving around, going to work right now, and you have an out-of-state license, you're in violation. Please get your Arizona driver's license.
All right, well, let's do your safety message of the week. It's monsoon, so let's not get into the ditches with our cars.
Yes, and I know the media stations around the county are putting this out, and I'm just going to echo it again. If you see a wash, turn around, don't drown. Very simply put, these washes it doesn't take a lot to sweep your car up, especially we see it every year. Luckily, we haven't had a lot of rain this year, and we're blessed that nobody's been caught in a monsoon wash yet. So please listen to our messages. Don't chance it. Sit back, be patient, and let the water go down before you go through there.
Well, Sheriff Mark Daniels, we thank you for coming and talking to us today.
Grady, Carol, thank you, everybody. Have a safe week, and we'll see you next Friday.
And Carol, who do we have coming in next?
We have Cochise College President J.D. Rottweiler.
First Watch on KWCD Country, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. And Sheriff Daniels has just kind of moved chairs over there. Hi, Sheriff.
I'm in the production chair now. It's like, I'm back.
That's right, because we're going to talk with J.D. Rottweiler from Cochise College, and we're going to let Sheriff do his interview. We'll see how we're going to. This is like your test run of interviewers.
It is, and Grady, thank you, and J.D., welcome to the studio. It's great to see you again. I see you a lot anyway, but it's great to see you.
Good morning, Sheriff. Good morning, Cochise County. I think what really happened there was. As the sheriff was leaving the door, he says, I'm going to leave an open mic with J.D. Rottweiler. Who knows what could happen there? So it's just great to be with you this morning.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And we were talking about, questions we need to ask you. And I said one of the most important questions we need to ask, J.D., is who's your favorite Cochise County current sheriff?
Well, clearly, Sheriff Daniels. He's doing an amazing job. And let me just say, the college is blessed to have amazing relationships with many of our public entities. And it really does take a village to make a county great. And so our work with the Sheriff's Office, our various municipalities, whether it be from the Law Enforcement Training Academy, whether it be business and industry, the college is really just trying to leverage itself to be a really good partner to help really the county reach its potential. We're all about enhancing the quality of life for our citizens and our communities, and we know it takes all of us to do that.
Well, let me just say, we have our partnership with you with the Academy. We did the dispatch. We got the law enforcement one there. We just got the driving track. I mean, you look at where Cochise College is at. I mean, and again, credit to your governing board there too, and your instructors, all that make it happen. But I mean, you guys have taken to the next generation. You're on cutting edge when it comes to what that college is doing right now.
Well, we really appreciate that. We've talked probably the last 3 or 4 years about being a term I call hyper local. That we really need to put all of our focus to really our local community. I mean, community is our middle name, and we are Cochise County Community College District. That community is really where we need to be. And I'll say probably 8 years ago, we were doing all of these evaluations, and we were being recognized across the country as the number 1, number 2, top 5 community colleges in the country, and that was a great honor, and we were extremely proud of that. But then we stepped back and we said, well, that's great to be compared to other colleges, but how does our county compare to other counties? Are there some things educationally and economically that the college should be looking at to really try to enhance our community? Because if we can do that, then we will fully lived up to our mission.
Oh, I agree 100%. And as an alumni from Cochise College back in the 80s, aging myself a little bit, but something exciting, too, that just came out, and if you talk to us a little bit about this, is you're taking it to a 4-year program.
Yeah, a couple years ago, the state legislature really provided an opportunity for community colleges to offer baccalaureate degrees. I will just say the college does not have an interest in becoming the next 4-year school. That's really not our niche. That's really not where we do our best. We want to continue to remain incredibly focused on local. That said, many of our local businesses, industries, and leaders have said there's a couple areas where we could really see an enhancement of educational opportunity. And so the first one, that we're going to roll out 2 of them, hopefully pending some accreditation and some other things in the fall of 2024. We'll offer our Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. As you know, many of our current practicing nurses, well over 80% of them that work within Cochise County, have their initial training from Cochise College. So we're now starting to see really a need for them to advance their educational opportunities, receive a baccalaureate so that they can move into charge nurse, floor nurse, really many of those leadership positions. So we'll roll that program out in the fall, and then the other one will be a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Organizational Leadership Management and Operations. That is really coming at a heavy request from our leadership at Fort Huachuca, as well as many of other business and industries that have taken these individuals who have worked for the last 10, 15 years in their organization and are now looking to move into supervisory roles where a bachelor's degree may be required. So we're really looking to try to finish off recognizing lifelong learning to help people advance in their careers and really help fulfill the needs of our county.
Yeah, it's exciting. I wish we would have had that years ago. I'll just tell you, you look at the cost compared to a traditional university or even a non-profit university, boy, that's probably half the cost, right?
Yeah, and our intention right now, I mean, we've not had a final decision with the governing board, but I think the administrative recommendation is going to keep those tuition rates at exactly that same rate.
Wow.
So right now our basic rate is $93 a credit hour. We do have a differential rate for nursing that puts it, in the $120 credit range, but that is far less than what you see at any private, frankly, or any public university. You can complete your education at Cochise College for about a quarter of what you can at most other state public entities.
And do it right here at home.
Yeah, and we think that's that part. We know that, well, as you've seen, Sheriff, as we started to do the police academy, if we can grow people at home and they stay home, then we're able to grow and keep our county vibrant. And we always want to have that influx of others coming in, and hopefully we have students that come to Cochise College because we got state-of-the-art training. Some of them will choose to stay. Some of them may go other places. But we know if we can keep our hyper-local attention, then we'll be moving in the right direction.
Well, and there's some big changes coming. I know the Public Safety Police Academy we have, the big changes coming to the Sierra Vista campus. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so probably 4 years ago we started talking, well, I should say probably 3 years ago, after we saw really the success of the Southeast Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy, we started to really see a different way of looking at educational opportunities in more of a short-term focused. I mean, we're able to take law enforcement cadets through a 19-week program, and out of that they complete basically half of their associate's degree. And so we said, what if we look at and see about shaping that in other areas? And so we came up with the concept of the First Responders Academy, which was really coming into COVID and out of COVID, the need to really create the next generation of first responders. And so we now have developed a program where we're doing EMTs, paramedics, fire science. We will soon roll out a very intense fire academy, primarily for the Sierra Vista Fire and Medical Services. And really, in order to do that, there's some key facility things you need to have. You need to have a law enforcement building, and so we've remodeled a building on the Sierra Vista campus. We needed a driving track so that we can do evasive driving training. We're also going to utilize that for CDL, for many other programs that are in there. And then we'll also break ground in September for a firearms training complex. We think all of this together will create an opportunity that's really unheard of in rural, not only Arizona, but rural America. We'll have a state-of-the-art first responders training academy with all the appropriate facilities. We'll also integrate in high-tech, I guess it's kind of oxymoron, high-tech technology, state-of-the-art technology that utilizes virtual reality, mixed reality. We'll be able to simulate some amazing things, and we look forward to doing some things with the Sheriff's Office.
We're so fortunate, JD, because it starts with you. I'm going to give you a big shout-out. I mean, I've said this before. When I speak at different events along with you, and there's two people I'd like to follow when I speak, Father Greg and you. I mean, you guys just got amazing, but you're also innovators. The reason you're having all this progression, succession at the college is you see a vision, and you're taking it not by talk but into action. So I commend you. I'm proud to be a partner with you in all this public safety, and I know the fire chiefs are, and the police chiefs around the county, because we're doing things that I don't think nobody in the state's doing at a community college.
Well, that's really kind of you to say, Sheriff, and I'll say I'd probably encourage you to follow more after Father Greg. He's likely to lead you in the right direction. Who knows where I'll lead you? But yeah, it's interesting. We were talking. I heard you talk a little bit earlier about the Congressional Oversight Committee. During COVID, Cochise College went through some strategic planning initiatives and also really looked at its guiding statements, its mission, and those other things. And one of the items that really began to play out was this need to really enhance community engagement. And so many of these initiatives you're seeing happen at the college through our partnership is making sure we're fully engaged with the community. And it was ironic, just this week on Tuesday, we started off at 6:30 in the morning with Spotlight on Sierra Vista, a wonderful event. The city sponsored that. The college was proud to host that, where we talked about all the successes in our city. We then had our amazing community engagement team turn things around, and by early afternoon, we were hosting a congressional oversight committee. I think it's important that we bring those opportunities to our community. We engage with our community. Our community's able to see those things. I'm not sure how many people had actually had the opportunity to witness a congressional hearing.
That's right.
I mean, it was as if it was being done in Washington, D.C. Matter of fact, I think the chairman of the committee said this is being sent back on C-SPAN. So if it's on C-SPAN, you know it is a real congressional hearing. You know, we've hosted the governor of Arizona twice over the last 4 or 5 months. We continue to have other leaders come through. We think it's just important to expose our community, to engage our community with the things that are happening not only locally, but around the world.
You know, one thing that, and you and I have talked about this, where we have the Governor DeSantis out of Florida, for example, he was here. We have some presidential candidates that have reached out and said, Sheriff, can we come and address your community, hear what's going on in your community? But we get labeled as this is a political event. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So it's real interesting. Carol Kappas and I have to have conversations all the time to find out, is this a political event or is this a community public interest event? And you can host both of those at the college. They just fall under completely different rules and regulations. So if it's considered a political event, then they have to pay their way, because the college, like most state entities, can't use any tax dollars to influence an election. And so we've worked those both ways. We've had campaign events on campus, but then we also have public information events and community engagement events and opportunities to host people that are less political. And I understand people say everything is political, but you can draw those lines that are in there to just expose our student body as well as our community to many of the things that are happening. I would feel remiss if we didn't, as a public 2-year college, if we didn't take the opportunity to give our students a chance to be exposed to individuals in leadership, to issues happening around the county. Whether we like it, we don't like it, it doesn't fit our ideology, it's still important that people are exposed to different ideas. That's really what higher education is all about.
And I agree 100%. I just want to give you the opportunity, because I know you and I have talked about that, where people, especially on social media, where they'll say whatever they want to say and there's no accountability to their statements. So I want to make sure you had the opportunity to share that.
Sheriff, I'll just say here, this was an interesting one that I think sometimes people need to think about. So I was questioned going into the Congressional Oversight Committee that if President Biden wanted to come to the campus, would we allow him? And I said, just ask that question again. Not only would we allow him, we would welcome him. Could you imagine the opportunity to have the President of the United States in Cochise County and at Cochise College? I mean, I think that's where we've got to kind of move aside from the political rhetoric and talk about the opportunities. To have the governor in Cochise County at Cochise College is a wonderful opportunity. To have 5 sitting congressmen in Cochise County at Cochise College is a wonderful opportunity. Those running for office, those doing other things, as long as we maintain and understand that line between political and political campaigning and really public information, then I think we've really helped fulfill the mission of the college.
I agree. We had a former vice president, Mike Pence, was at your college. So it's just, I think it's opportunity for your community and, most important, your students to witness this and see that and experience that. I want to shift gears just for a second. I know we only got a few minutes left here, but 2 programs that one's a legacy program, I think, for Cochise College, and that's your nursing program, your health program. Do you want to talk on that for a minute?
Sure. I mean, we couldn't be more proud of our nursing program, and we continue to try to expand and look for areas where we can enhance health care in the county. I tell people all the time, I'm a rural boy by nature, born and raised in Idaho and Wyoming. In order for rural Arizona to make it, you have to have access to a couple things. You have to have access to health care, education, and jobs. And I truly believe that Cochise County would not be what it is were it not for the foresight of to establish a community college in 1962, and then have a nursing program that provides all of the. I mean, I was talking to an individual who had their father in the hospital. He said every nurse there is a Cochise College nurse. Well, that's probably true. Over 85% of practicing nurses have their training from Cochise College. But we're doing more than that. We're looking for pathways in. So from medical assistant to phlebotomy, EKG. We have an LPN one-year program. We have a CNA program that really provides the opportunity to work directly after one semester. There are so many opportunities in healthcare, and they're going to continue to grow. We're currently working with Canyon Vista Medical Center to establish a surgical technology program, and we'll continue to look for all of those ways to really keep our healthcare system vibrant, because that's really one of the core needs within Cochise County.
You know, quickly here, one of the other GEM programs that doesn't get a lot of recognition, but it's super to have it here, one of the few in the country, is your pilot program.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have on our Douglas campus. The aviation program goes back to really one of the early programs at the college. We're one of the few community colleges in the country that has an aviation program. Interesting there, we talk about trying to do things hyper-local. There we're probably doing things more outside. And we talk all the time, why are we preparing pilots when they may not work in Cochise County? And I remind our people all the time, if you have to drive to Tucson, you have to crawl on a plane, and you want to go somewhere, you might hope that there's a pilot there that can train it. And I can assure you, if they've been trained at Cochise College, they've really got state-of-the-art training.
I think it's a great program for that. I really do. And as we close out, Jay, let me say thank you. I mean, you know, all of us as leaders in our organizations and our communities want to set a brand. You've set that brand. It's got a strong heartbeat in this. Your household known, and you got a heartbeat throughout this county. But that starts with you and your leadership team. So Dr. Perry and all the people over there, and of course Crystal Wheeler. I'm sure she's listening this morning. Thank you, Crystal, for all she does as a go-to. Sabrina, all of them over there. Amber, everybody over there, and my wife Nikki. I got to say that because she's probably listening to this too. So thank you so much, JD, for you and your team.
You're very welcome. We love Cochise County. We love to be a part of it. We love to see projects come to fruition. And thanks, Sheriff, for all of your guidance and the opportunity to be on the radio with this morning.
All righty.
First Watch on KWCD Country, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative. And in the studio now, we have our next guest.
Back Cochise County, and welcome Dan Deshawn, Cochise County Emergency Manager. And we appreciate you being here today. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing right now.
Hey, good morning, Carol, Grady. Thanks for having me. I'm always excited to be on the radio with you guys here. So I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Cochise County. And while I'm not in the Sheriff's Office, I'm tucked away in another department. Our mission really is public safety. When we talk emergency management, the elevator speech I like to give is there's several phases, and it starts with preparing. Here at the local level, we do emergency operations plans. Right now we're working on a hazmat response plan, which is very relevant now considering the railways we have coming through Cochise County in the northern I-10 area. I'm working on a grant right now for a community wildfire protection plan, which I'm excited for. Again, you know, you can't watch the news without hearing about a devastating wildfire somewhere. Recently there was one in Hawaii. So that type of planning will let us look at what we call the wildland urban interface, which is where the houses and the forest meet. And we do that every 10 years to look at what's changed. What do we need to focus or refocus our thinning projects for the fire departments. So that's our preparedness phase. On the response phase, emergency management will send out alerts, letting folks know what to do, what not to do, and we'll get into that here in a minute. We'll also be in the back end. You know, I wouldn't say I'm a first responder there with a gun or an axe, but fighting fires. But I'm on the back end, and that's I'm kind of the line to the state for more resources. So whenever you see these big disasters come in, it's the emergency manager that would go up to the state or work with the Board of Supervisors to declare an emergency. Another phase we have is mitigation, which is what can we do to our infrastructure right now to make the results of these emergencies or natural disasters less. In that I work with our flood control district, our county and city engineers, and look for grants. Say, how can we improve our infrastructure so we're not as severely impacted? Last, we have recovery, which is after that disaster. Well, how do we rebuild? Again, this is more finding those resources. It could be a state or a FEMA grant. How do we recover and rebuild so we can move forward?
So that's a lot for emergency services. So you're the go-to guy or the department for all of the other departments. So you're the facilitator to get assets in place to before, during, and after. So that's a really tough job, and you do a really good job at that, and we appreciate having you there. So we've had a lot of need for your particular office since the beginning of time, but it seems like most specifically over the past couple of years, it's just been an enhanced partnership between the Sheriff's Office and emergency management, and making sure that everybody can get what they need at the time that they need it.
Absolutely. I've been in this position a little over a year, and I look back through the records, and it's not like we say, oh, it's the fire season. We've had wildfires in December, and there's flooding in the monsoon season. We have winter storms. We have infrastructure outages like water going out. And I would be the first one there dropping off a pallet of water out in Bowie, and then making sure ADEQ knows so that it's repaired in time. So there's no typical day. You never know what you're going to get, and like you said, it's about being out there facilitating and building relationships, because the last thing I want is something bad to happen and I have to go introduce myself. It's cliche, but we say in emergency management, you don't want to introduce yourself during a disaster. You need to know who the guy or gal is well before.
That's right. And so moving into, you were talking about the first phase, and then the preparedness phase, and then actually the when something is happening phase, we talk about alerts. So preparedness is important, because if you're prepared for any type of a situation like this, it can carry you through the remaining phases. So that's what we really try to get into. One of the things when there's an incident, you note, follow the Cochise County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. We've had a little bit of a situation in the past few incidents where people don't see the information, and we finally were able to drill down and discover that there were 3 Sheriff's Office pages. There was the official Cochise County Sheriff's Office page, and then there were 2 other ones that said Cochise County Sheriff's Office, but they were not ours. It was just random people who had set up pages and had maybe a picture of a car on one and a picture of another person on another one who we don't even know who that was. And that's kind of a scary thought, just not having people have the immediate access that they need to get critical information. So we've reported that to Facebook or Meta, and hopefully they'll get rid of the other ones. But it's important to look at those things now, bookmark those things now. See if you can like or follow our page now, because then when the incident happens, you know exactly where you need to go. So tell us a little bit about the alerts.
Excellent. Yeah, it's always important to know you're following the right source. And here in emergency management, we have a very awesome software tool where we can send alerts, and there's a lot of different kinds. It starts with what called reverse 911 for folks with landlines, where we can send a voice message that calls your phone and gives you that message. Next, we have your cell phone alerts, which is the wireless emergency alerts, kind of like your Amber Alert, Silver Alert you may see. And basically, we can hit everybody's cell phone in a specific area that we draw on a map. So that's one of our most powerful tools, and with that, we can hit landlines and cell phones. So that's the bulk of the people right there. Next, we have the emergency alert system, which Grady, you know about. That's the big one for when we have a real regional disaster where we got to say, hey, folks in Tucson, stay off I-10, or don't come down to Cochise County because it's the big one. We haven't had to use that, but that's and it's also that's something like the president could use, but we do have access to it. It's a very powerful tool. Some other ones we have are, I would call, like community groups or Firewise communities. For example, I'm going to give a shout out to like Ramsey Canyon Firewise and Banning Creek Firewise, where they've come together as a community and said, hey, here's a list of the 100 folks that live here. we're really worried about wildfires. So I can put those folks in the system and hit them specifically. So if there's a wildfire in Hereford, I can still send a message to the Ramsey Canyon folks and go, hey, I know you see a lot of smoke, but it's not you guys. It's okay. And that brings them a level of comfort. So I would welcome any community groups, HOAs, neighborhoods that have that say, hey, we've got an awesome HOA here, and, we talked, we want to get, the 50, 100 people, we want to get their names in the system just for that extra layer of notifications. And then lastly, the reason I'm here is to encourage people to sign up in advance for alerts, and we'll get the website and flyer out. But what that does is it lets you sign up proactively so you can get an alert if you're not home. One of the biggest questions I have is if you've got this powerful software where you can hit landlines and cell phones, but that's only in the box I draw. So if you're up in Tucson at Trader Joe's, shout out to Trader Joe's, you're not going to get the alert unless you've signed up and your cell phone is in the system. So if you're not in that area, you won't get the alert.
And we used that for an incident at Desert RV where we were notifying people every 30 minutes of, please shelter in place. And that was, I guess, a hindrance to the public because they weren't understanding why they were getting notified every 30 minutes. But it's because we had no idea where this active shooter person had disappeared to. Did he catch a ride? Did he get stuck in a house? Did he get through somebody's garage? And so those were the reasons why we had to put those out that frequently. And it was the first time we had really used that capability, but it was a good thing for us to see that it was robust and it did in fact work. Other people sometimes when you send out alert sense messages say, how come I didn't get it? I'm signed up, I just didn't get that. Well, there's a lot of dynamic involved in that. So again, we hit back to the proactive, be proactive, sign up, make sure that if you have things that are occurring in your area that you do get notified, and if you don't, make a call, see what's going on.
Yes, and that's a good point where if you're outside of the area that's affected, you may not get that alert. I don't make this decision just by myself as Dan. I hear from the sheriff that says, hey, here's an emergency, this is what I need. Or the incident commander on a fire says, this is the area. And I will follow their lead. It's not unilateral. So if you're outside of that area, you won't get the alert. I can't spool up a whole reverse 911 and cell phone alert to say everything's okay. We do have to make it targeted. Otherwise, there will be that fatigue with it. So I get that question a lot as far as, I didn't get the alert. I go, then no news is good news to a certain extent.
Right. So how do they sign up for Alert Sense?
Excellent. So we'll get the flyer on Facebook, and there's a QR code as well, but it's just cochise.myfreealerts.com.
Okay, and so anybody can go there. They should go there. Some people say they don't have social media, so they can't get follow-ups, but at least signing up for the alerts, you'll get a notification when something's happening and when something should be closed up.
Yep, and you can, add multiple phone numbers. So if you're signing up a family member, you can also add your phone number. You can select what type of alerts you want to get. If you would like to receive specific weather alerts, there's a lot of options. It's a really customizable tool.
And tell us one more time how to get there.
cochise.myfreealerts.com.
Great.
First Watch on KWCD Country is brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
You've been listening to First Watch with the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
Join us again next Friday morning, 7 to 8 a.m.
First Watch.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Only on 92.3 KWCD.
Careful.